Hey guys, Mark here, and today we're going to be talking about this beast of a camera, the Blackmagic Cinema Camera, and whether it's worth checking out here in late 2017. Let's get to it. This is the Blackmagic Cinema Camera, or BMCC for short, and it's been my workhorse of a camera for the past 3 years. In this video, I'll be doing a comprehensive review of its strengths and its weaknesses, and giving you my full opinion on whether this camera is worth buying at its current market price here in 2017. So first up, some internal technical specifications for you tech nerds just like me. The BMCC shoots 12-bit 2.5K RAW at a small range of frame rates from 23.98 to 30 FPS. It also shoots ProRes HQ, 422 LT, Proxy, and DNx HD, but it doesn't shoot any frame rates higher than 30, so if you're looking to do some slow motion work, you're probably better off looking somewhere else. This camera has a whopping 13 stops of dynamic range, which is ludicrous for a camera this cheap. The sensor also has a crop factor of about 2.3, which I'll talk about a little later, but high crop factors really freaking suck. This version of the BMCC has an EF mount for Canon lenses, but you can also pick up a Micro Four Thirds mount for a slightly wider range of lens adaptations. The body is made from extremely high quality materials with a metal body and a black rubberized coating on the front and rear of the camera. The metal is prone to scratching and scuffing though. Mine's taken kind of a beating over the years. The rear of the camera has a 5-inch touchscreen display that has a resolution of 800 by 480. You can connect an external monitor via the 10-bit 422 SDI port on the side of the camera. Also on the side of the camera is an LANC port for connecting a record button, a 3.5mm headphone jack, 2 1/4-inch microphone ports. I know it's weird. 1/4-inch is not something you normally see. You usually see XLR ports on these cameras. It also has a Thunderbolt port and a 12-volt power port. Both are self-explanatory. On the opposite side of the camera, you'll see a door with the text SSD on the door. Oh yeah, this thing records to solid state drives and not the proprietary kind that Red makes. This camera takes SSDs that you would normally put inside a PC build. Unfortunately, however, there's only a small list of approved SSDs that will actually work with the camera. You can put pretty much any SSD in it, but there's no guarantee that the SSD will actually be able to handle the high data rate coming from the camera, unless you use one of the SSDs recommended by Blackmagic Design. To be honest, I kind of like this system. The file transfer rate to the computer is extremely fast, and if you ever sell the camera, you can always take the SSDs that you bought for the camera and then put it into your PC for super fast storage. Then there's the internal battery. There's no way to swap out the batteries of the BMCC for fresh ones when the internal ones run out. The only solution is to actually buy a V-mount plate and a V-mount battery kit, and then plug it into the DC power port on the side of the camera, which gets expensive. Finally, the front of the camera has a button to unlock the lens from the mount, as well as a very, very awkwardly placed record button that I don't ever use. Now let's get into the operation of the camera and take a look at the menu system, as well as the buttons around the display. The menu system actually looks great and is extremely straightforward. I won't go into too much detail here, as there are a lot of other videos online that go through the process of going through all the camera options and talking about what they do, but I will talk about a few of the minor quirks that are in this menu system. First of all is the white balance and shutter angle. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, shutter angle is just basically another measurement for shutter speed. Normally on a DSLR, if you were shooting 24 frames per second, you'd shoot with a shutter speed of 1/48 of a second. On this camera, you actually shoot with a shutter angle of 180 degrees. You can do a calculation to convert shutter speed to shutter angle or shutter angle to shutter speed, but I'm not getting into that. I'm terrible at math. The other weird thing I don't really like is that you can't set a custom white balance in 100 Kelvin increments. There's weird steps between each number, and I really wish you could just dial it in more accurately. It's not a problem if you're shooting RAW because you can just, change it in post, but it is a problem if you're shooting ProRes or DNx HD and your white balance is actually fully baked into the image. Another strange thing about this camera is if you switch from RAW shooting to ProRes or DNx HD or vice versa, the camera actually restarts. It doesn't take long to restart, it's really annoying when you're on a tight shooting schedule and you're just flicking that power button on and off and waiting for the SSD to get ready again. If you hit the play button on the back of the camera, you can cycle through past shots, play them, rewind them, or fast forward them. The only thing you can't do here is delete them. For that, you actually have to plug your SSD into a computer and then delete the files manually, which is a pain. Now for the part you've been waiting for. How do shots from this camera actually look? Naturally, 2.5K 12-bit RAW is amazing. It's not quite as sharp as some of the 4 and 6K cameras that are available now, but it has a beautiful character to it. The highlights roll off nicely, the skin tones are great, and both the highlights and blacks are retained, even when overexposed or underexposed. This camera does like a lot of light though. It's meant to be used in well-exposed or slightly overexposed areas, not in areas of low light. It has a native ISO of 800 and a maximum of 1600, and 1600 tends to be very noisy. My favorite lens to pair with this camera is the Sigma 18-35 1.8 Art. Since the BMCC has a 2.3x crop, the 18-35 is effectively a 40-80 or something like that. It's not overly wide, but it's a good range for the camera. To get wider, you're best off going with an 11-16 lens. Since there's a bit of a crop factor, it's really hard to get nice bokeh. You can use a long lens, but then you have to back up a long way from your subject, so space quickly becomes a problem. A few other concerns. The camera does suffer from rolling shutter, as it doesn't have a global shutter like the 4K version does. It also seems to suffer from IR pollution when using ND filters, so if you need to use ND that's over 0.9, you might have to use an IR ND filter, which, again, are expensive. But if you can get over the quirks that the camera has, it produces a fantastic image. Since you can grab one of these cameras on eBay for under $1,000, it's a steal. If you're prepared to compensate for its shortcomings, I'm willing to bet that you're gonna love the camera. If you like this video, please show your support by hitting like and hitting that subscribe button. And if you didn't, let me know why in a comment below. Your feedback always helps me put together better content. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.